Normally, we've got Stephen Kent on for some of his brilliant cultural wisdom from Geeky Stoics, but Stephen has one of the best analytical minds when it comes to fighting regulatory junk and making some of the nerdy high finance, economic, legal policy stuff palatable to read, which is not a talent that many have. Stephen Kent, media director over at Consumer Choice Center. I got to say, I wasn't looking for your article in the Daily Signal on Ozempic and those particular stream of weight loss drugs. But it's a pretty darn good article, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Tony. And, you know, to the point of, you know, normally coming on to talk about culture and philosophy, I actually can't think of any public policy issue more rooted in culture and philosophy than these weight loss drugs, GLP-1s. You know, people are taking Ozempic, Wegovy, stuff like that. I mean, there's a huge question here about the weight loss boom and its tie to self-control, free will, the choices that we make. And I have just been so skeptical for well over a year now of the impact that these drugs are going to have on people, taking a shortcut to losing weight. And I think I've been proven wrong by most of the data that we've been seeing coming back over the past year about how GLP-1s are impacting people's lives pretty much for the better.
The reason I'm interested in this particular phenomenon of Ozempic, because there was weight loss has been one of those things that the medical community and the food and drug atmosphere or ecosphere has been chasing for a very long time. Ever since the United States started producing more food and starvation became less common here in the country, we really started getting more invested in kind of our image. And weight loss became something that, you know, all the way back to special clothes. You can sit in this chair that will rock you back and forth, and that'll take care of the weight loss for you. And then, of course, we had the trans fats revolution in the 90s. And then we finally discovered it was actually carbs that were a problem, and then sugars. Now Ozempic actually appears to fix at least the accumulated fat side of this. It's like, and the reason I was typing right there at the beginning, there was a kind of an Accutane kind of an older acne medicine. My dad had actually told me about it in the 80s and the 90s that solved acne. I mean, you would take this and it would cure your acne. Your face would clear up. It would look great, but it caused very, very heavy suicide ideation. And just trying to search it now, Google thinks that I'm asking the wrong kinds of questions. And so they're giving me hotlines instead of the name of the drug that would have answered the question. But there's a lot of concern now about some of the, if not the potential side effects of the GLP-1s, the Ozempics, then are there cheap knockoffs spilling onto the market that are doing far more harm than good?
Yeah, Tom Cotton from Arkansas, he sent a letter to AG Pam Bondi just a couple of days ago, asking her to take more action and help him understand what is going on with the Chinese influx of GLP-1 knockoffs into the U.S. market. There have been large-scale seizures by Customs and Border Protection over the past year. I mean, you've got tens of thousands of unapproved weight loss medications coming in that are not approved by the FDA, that are meant to be mixed and made at home by the consumer. So like, think about that for a second. People are going to be mixing and measuring out their own cocktails of these GLP-1 drugs.
Hang on a second here. I gotta pump the brakes. So are these cocktails to be drank, or are these to be intravenously taken like Ozempic is?
Yeah. So when I say cocktail, I definitely mean like a mixture, right? So that would be mixing your own amounts of the drug and then injecting them through the traditional method of delivery that you see with things like Ozempic. You know, it's a
literally
jab.
The worst idea ever. The idea that so the reason, former science teacher and anatomy physiology teacher, the medical side is going to come out right here. Do not partake in any kind of a medical option that involves you mixing things yourself that will then end up injected into you. The reason, for the very first and foremost, the safety risks here, you get any bubbles, any air in that syringe when you get that mixed together, and that's not in the right place, you're going to send your body into all kinds of nasty shock. I can't believe that's the suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, there have been all sorts of matters of harm done to people, whether it be miscarriages, paralysis, death. And we're dealing with a situation right now where about 8% of Americans are using GLP-1s on a regular basis. So we're talking about millions and millions and millions of people. And right now, about 35%, according to the most recent polls, are considering taking GLP-1s, but they are being bombarded with ads to cheap knockoffs online, and they don't know all the time what they're buying is the real genuine article, which I think is why I think President Trump has gotten so hands-on on this issue and worked to try to get and has succeeded in getting these major companies to offer GLP-1 drugs to Medicaid and Medicare patients for a huge discounted price, because we need certainty if these things are going to make the most positive impact on the market. Otherwise, people are going to get hurt.
So are they able to get some of these, the Beijing regime and the other pseudo, definitely not state-run companies that are assisting in sending these things over? So these particular companies, are they getting them as close to the border or over the border because they are precursor chemicals? They're just listing them as the rote chemicals, and then they catch them because there's packaging on them that says like they're pre-packaged together. Like they have like 4 bottles. It's like a flight of these chemicals. How are they catching these people?
Yeah, I mean, during the operation, Customs and Border Patrol, they intercepted shipments that included unapproved injections for, I'm going to get the pharma names wrong here, but retritruitude and terzapatide, like the ingredients here that go into these main things, as well as semaglutide. I mean, these are just the injections that form the basis of the ingredients for these drugs. And that's kind of what they're seizing here in like vials that are coming over the border. It's just a huge, huge problem. And I think just to backpedal here a little bit to the main big picture issue is that we want people to be more healthy, to live more fruitful and active lives. And I'm a big self-control guy. I want people to actually develop discipline when it comes to their health. But literally, this has never worked in the United States of America. And most of the polling and surveys and consumer research data on this have shown that people who are taking the GLP-1 drugs are cutting their spending on food. They are not overindulging in their eating. They're diverting their budgets towards exercise equipment and to active wear. They are actually getting out from under the boot of obesity. And you know what? I'm for that. I am for the shortcut if it helps people survive, because obesity does kill, and it causes so many other premorbidities or comorbidities that cut people's lives short, and it's just not right. And so kind of finger wagging at people about eating their vegetables and exercise and I don't know, whatever the Obamas wanted you to do back in the day, it just hasn't worked. And so we need to actually pursue this alternative path.
Really apropos point, we talk about all of the things that the administration is doing to tackle the precursor chemicals that come into the country. Of course, that means focusing a lot on fentanyl, justifiably so. But there are so many precursor chemical fake medical, or I shouldn't say fake, counterfeit medical, counterfeit solutions, but in a chemical term, treatments, medicines, drugs coming into the country that, again, I don't really know how, given the kind of superfluity of how some of the big box online stores do their shipping and how they are more than happy to connect you to some drop ship store from Shenzhen or Shanghai, that you are not going to be losing tens of thousands of people a year just because they've looked through an online store they've used before and trust that it's safe, and they're not going to be cutting any corners or just using some third or fourth party.
Yeah. And, a lot of the harm that has been done by these counterfeit drugs, we're talking about a couple thousand of reports to the FDA and to the federal authorities every year. But that doesn't say anything about the people who never made reports at all. right? Who just sort of either die or are injured in ways that nobody ever really knows what caused this. Maybe they don't have a lot of social capital or connections, and we don't know about all the people who are being harmed by counterfeit versions of these drugs. But what we do know is that the drugs that are approved and on the FDA's green list, they're safe and they've been working for people and are helping people live more long and active lives. And I'm just simply for that. So a lot of work to be done on the government front to keep consumers safe. And Thanksgiving just kind of had me thinking.
I think very well put. We'll link this in the description down below. And I am also of the same opinion. You look, if you really want to get out there and take Ozempic, if you think that's the best way, and again, it's the version that has been approved by the FDA, because again, you will be taken advantage of by a lot of these companies if that rigorous process isn't in place. At least some restrictions, that being disaster absolutely could strike. Stephen Kent, not necessarily our normal What You Watching. We'll have to bring you back for that real soon, but instead in his media role for the Consumer Choice Center. Thank you very much.
Well, I look forward to coming back on for a What You Watching. We just did the age of disclosure in our house, so we'll have to talk about aliens next time, Tony.
We will. And especially, I'm being bullied now that I'm going to have to go see Wicked for the first time. So we really will have to bring you back to talk about it. I know, I said the same thing. Oh.
Don't do it.